Hi there, this is Mike Riley. I'm the ODTUG secretary, but probably more importantly, I'm a past president of ODTUG. And I'm seated here. It's only appropriate in Disney that we have a Hall of Presidents. This is the Hall of ODTUG Presidents. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Monty?
I'm Monty Latiolais, and I had the privilege and the honor of representing the organization from 2012 to 2016.
My name is Natalie Delemar, and I'm the current president, and I've been president since 2017.
I'm Graziano.
I'm sorry, that's wrong.
Oh no,
16.
2016.
16.
Yeah.
You said 16, it couldn't have been 16 because I started in 16.
You overlapped.
Okay. December 31st of 2015.
15.
She wouldn't even give me that extra 5 minutes.
I'm Graziano, and I was president of the group, I think around 1999. Served on the board of directors from 1994, prior to this actually being called the Oracle Development Tools User Group, all the way up through the early 2000s, but president in 99.
And I'm Mike Riley. I was president of the organization from 2008 until Monty took over in 2012 from me. So I got this fine group, distinguished group of folks together. Kind of wanted to just talk a little bit about maybe a little history of ODTUG and about the challenges that we've each faced, which are probably unique but very similar to between every president. So Kent, you want to tell us quickly a little bit about how ODTUG started?
Yeah, so before it was called ODTUG, it was actually called the Oracle Case Special Interest Group. Oracle had a set of software, computer-aided software engineering, and it started off as a very small group focused on data modeling, data architecture, and generating software. And the first conference was actually in 1993 in Keystone, Colorado. We had actually executives from Oracle Case flew over from England, plus some people from California came out. We had about 50 to 75 people. And we started off with a couple of mountain conferences, then we eventually went to San Diego, and in I guess it was 95 or 96, we made the transition from Oracle Case to the Oracle Development Tools User Group, because what was happening in the industry, we were seeing Oracle introduce all these new development tools, and so it wasn't just the little case tools. There was all this interest in Oracle Forms and Oracle Reports, and the first round of Java and JDeveloper came out, and we really needed to expand the focus of the group, so we changed the name of the group, and the Oracle Development Tools User Group was formed there in San Diego on the beach, and that started kind of a resort beach theme that has carried through to the conference to this day.
So what were some of the challenges that you guys faced? I imagine that perhaps yours were a little more unique in that we were a really small organization. It was more of the foundation things that you had to face to get us to the point where we are today.
Yeah, we faced, the first challenge was actually writing bylaws for the group, and what was the mission of the group, and that's where we established the original mission, which still holds, of trying to provide information and education to our members to allow them to be leaders in their organizations. And that's always been the focus of the group. And how we've done it over the years has changed. As Monty mentioned before we started the interview, is back then when people came to the conference, one of the things they got at the conference is they got CDs with the newest release of the Oracle software. In many cases it was beta. We would get beta software, and everybody would come to the conference just to get that software so they could take it back to their office and start working with it, because we weren't downloading stuff at the time. And we had paper proceedings. We used to have to write white papers in order to present at the conference. You didn't just show up with slideware, you had to have white papers. In fact, the first couples, didn't even have slides, we had foils. If anybody remembers those, transparencies and overhead projectors. So and so the challenge there, over the years, the AV challenges became even more, right? Because before it was just, you worried about the light bulb burning out, right? Well, now we got to figure out, do we provide computers at the conference for people to do their presentations on, or do we require them to bring their own computers, and do we have the right AV connectors? Right. Macs came on the scene, and people started showing up with Macs instead of PCs, and all kinds of challenges in that area to make the conference run smoothly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I always credit/blame Kent for getting me involved in the organization. Kent was a consultant and came out to my company at one point and told me about ODTUG, and I've been a faithful member ever since. One of the things that I know that speaking in sort of a timeline here, after you had stepped down as president and I transitioned after a couple of more presidents in between, we were running the organization as best we could, but we weren't as much focused on being successful financially. We were just trying to make people happy, and it was sort of running us into a rut where we were running into some serious financial challenges. So one of the big things that I think that I faced at the time was something that a former treasurer, Jeff Canclini, drove into my head was, he said, this is a business. We have to run it like a business. And so that kind of became my mantra, and you know, one of the things that I think I'm credited for, I don't know how much credit I really deserve, but is getting the Hyperion community into ODTUG. That was a turning point for us in 2008, getting the Hyperion folks here, and that has now grown and made this conference as great as it is. So that perhaps was one of the big things for me. In addition to that, it was probably getting someone else, mentoring them along, bringing them into the organization, making them feel wanted and needed and involved. And I think, Monty, I may be the one that kind of hooked you into that.
Yeah. You definitely took an interest early on. I was at New Orleans I was at Washington, D.C. in 2006. It was my first conference. And then I think it was the next year we spoke again. And then, it was in 2008 in New Orleans when you and I had a pretty lengthy conversation. And I was convinced at that point that there was a place for me in the organization. And so I really do owe you a debt of gratitude because ODTUG has meant tremendous change, positive change for me personally. The people that I now call extremely good friends, my best friends that I have are in this organization, and they may not even be in this country. For the longest, my wife didn't really understand how I could claim all these friends that I have and how they could be really, how we could share that kind of bond when you see these people once every year, maybe once every 2 years. My wife's family, or my wife's friends rather, they're all 15 minutes away, and she's used to seeing them on a daily basis. But believe me, she gets it now because through her involvement with the organization and attending conferences, she has the same friends around the world now. They're great friends, and she understands that how bonds can develop when you have so much in common like we do, even if you don't see each other on a daily basis. Kent mentioned his challenges. You had some challenges and obvious successes too in your time. I really I enjoyed a really prosperous time for the organization. You handed over the organization in fantastic shape, Mike, and so we did take some pretty big swings, and we did make some pretty bold decisions during the time I served on the board. But we really, I feel like we were right place, right time, and I didn't think that things were broken in any way, and we could only improve. And I'm very proud of the work that the board did during the time that I served with the board. But if you look back, we got where we are today because we are willing to risk, and we're willing to let things ride, and we're willing to take a big swing at things. And I hope that never changes. In fact, Natalie will speak to her challenges in just a second, but I really think that if we don't continue to be bold, and if we don't continue to be aggressive, and if we don't continue to really push the limits, then we run a huge risk of just kind of falling back to the competition. I still feel like we're way ahead of the competition, and obviously, I don't want to see that happen. I want to see us maintain position of leadership among the user
Yeah,
groups.
exactly.
So I have the privilege of being the current president, and very grateful to these gentlemen up here for their leadership and their support. I came into the organization 11 years ago as just a person who had no idea what to expect, and I too made some really great friends. Some of my best friends are through this organization, and I also am where I am in my career because of the learnings I got from attending the conference and the people I met and their support for my career. Current challenges. So one of the things I'm looking at is the fact that our attendee, the average age of our attendee, seems to be aging along with myself. So, there's been a lot of passion around the Oracle tools, or the Oracle tools and the technology. And I just think that the younger generation, the way they work and the way they think is a little bit different. They're used to interacting a little bit differently through social media platforms, maybe not really understanding the value in conferences. And so there's some work to be done in engaging that next generation of Oracle technologists and letting them know the value of a user group and the value of coming together in person and having that interaction. So that's one of the things we're looking to address today in the organization.
I just want to step in just 1 second because you're spot on. Because we've been selling for years now this Kscope experience, because we recognize that content is available in various avenues now.
Right.
We used to have to go to Kent's conference to get the beta discs. Those days are long
Just
gone.
download them now.
Download it.
Actually, it's in the cloud. You don't download anything
That's
anymore,
true.
people.
It's just
We
there.
made the next transition
there.
from hard drives and CDs to downloading it and having a high enough speed internet connection to download it at the conference, hopefully, to now there's nothing to download. It's a URL and it's all in the cloud, right?
That's true.
So that's another transition.
That's true. And to Natalie's point about these younger Oracle technologists, just thinking differently and going through their business differently than our generations did. We've been selling this Kscope experience for years, where you need to come to the conference and it's about networking and the bonds, the relationships that are cemented, how real they are and how beneficial they are. We've been doing that successfully, but look how these younger folks think is that they're doing everything virtually now. It's incumbent on us to make those changes in what we're doing.
And I think that's a point. We've got the ODTUG leadership program now,
That's right.
and we're all pre that leadership program, but through being leaders in the organization, it's caused us to evolve, and as you said, had great impacts on our career.
Absolutely.
And our network, the people we've been able to associate with, and things we've learned. And we were all technologists who ended up running a technical user group. But to run a technical user group, we had to become leaders and managers,
Right.
even though we mostly were used to being in cubes working on code.
That's
And so
right.
that was one of the huge benefits that I got personally from career-wise of being on the board of directors and the mentorship of our former executive director, Kathleen McCaslin, learning to be a leader. I was treasurer at one point too and had to start thinking about this this is a business. Now, all of us are volunteers. And people are like, it's a volunteer-run organization, and the money doesn't even cross anybody's mind. But then one day I realized I was actually running $1 million business. And this was way back when you looked at what it cost to put on one of these conferences and all the food and beverage, the contracts with the convention centers, the contracts with the hotels and the resort, and having to pick out the right one that has the features that's going to support the type of event we want to run. That's running a business.
Absolutely.
And I grew up in a family-run business, and I kind of appreciated what my dad had to do. And then I got into running this, and wow, yeah, it was quite a learning experience to be able to do that. And there's that's an opportunity that these type of groups offer that you don't really get anywhere else. You can be in your career in a technology area and work through your entire career in that and be a coder, and be a developer, and be the best one in the world maybe. But then getting involved in a leadership program and helping run one of these organizations just gives you a whole other set of aspects that you may not have encountered in trying to provide a service to your colleagues and to your peers, which again is, the underpinnings of this group have always been to make leaders out of our members and give them the most current, important information that are going to help them in supporting not only themselves and their careers, but their customers and the businesses that they represent.
Yep, absolutely.
I like to say a big part of our job is to hold the door open for the next person.
Yeah.
And you know, we've all kind of done that, and that's tremendously important. You know, you mentioned you were president when we were in San Diego, right?
No, I wasn't actually. I was vice president at that time.
Vice president.
Yeah.
'Cause that's always a location that holds very high, and I don't know if we're going to ever get back there, but that's always number one on people's list. We've gone to some fantastic locations.
Yeah. It's been
And
great.
I think at one point, maybe it was about that point that you're talking about, Kent, the location was very important because it was as much of the draw as anything. I still enjoy coming to these fantastic locales, but I feel like we could hold this in Des Moines. No offense to Des Moines, but I feel like we could hold this in Des Moines, and the draw is the content and the organization.
And
so
the people,
we've
the
come a long
great
ways.
people we have.
We've come an awfully long ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we're running a little long here. 10 or 15 seconds. You guys have talked about getting others involved and holding the door open. Monty, I'm going to start with you, and I'll take the last swing here.
Okay.
What's your recommendation to people who want to get involved in the organization?
People who want to get involved in the organization, I would say find your niche and start to speak at the conference. It's difficult to get into any conference because the number of abstracts that come in is extreme, but do whatever you have to do to get into the conference. And in the presentations that I give, I always make it a point to tell people you need to go from the audience to the podium, because if we don't keep that pipeline completely full, then it's going to be just a matter of time before that pipeline empties. We all have a story to tell. I think people fall in, and I'm going over 15 seconds. Everybody thinks,
What
okay,
a
Big surprise.
well, the thinking, just for that, I'm filibustering. The thinking is, oh, if I know it, everybody knows it. But that's not true. Some of the most well-read stuff, the most popular things that I've written have been the most basic, because your audience is much larger. If you're doing something that is so niche that only Kent's interested, look how small the audience is. So start to
Saying you get small audiences, Ken?
No, I'm saying
I'm an audience of one.
I'm saying, forget it. So they need to get involved in that way, in speaking, and then also it goes without saying that until you can explain something to somebody else, you really don't know it well enough yourself. So know your subject, get out there, go from the audience to the podium, and get plugged in that way.
All right, well, I'm going to do a plug for communities. So I think a great way to get involved is to get involved in your community, whether it's Apex, Database, EPM, or BI, and get local. We are always looking for volunteers to hold meetups, and it's a great way to get your feet wet in the organization without taking on too much. And that's a great way to start speaking on a smaller scale, right? You start with your meetups and do a 10, 15, 20-minute presentation there, get some experience, and then submit a presentation to speak at the conference. So I think that's a great way to start your volunteer journey with ODTUG.
And I'm going to back up even further to, you don't want to get in front of people, you don't have any experience organizing anything, you volunteer at the conference to be an ambassador and pick the speaker you want to hear the most, look at their bio, and get up there and introduce them, and that'll be your first time in front of the audience. The other way you can do, which I think I did with both of these guys, was get on an abstract review committee. There's no better way to learn how to get into a conference than review the things that get into a
Yes.
conference. You learn so much by reading the titles and the abstracts that are submitted by people who have been doing it for years and years to kind of get the idea of what is this conference really looking for, and how do I present the information to a group of distributed remote people who are going to review 250 words in an app and decide whether or not I should come and present that to the conference. The best way to get good at that is read a bunch of them yourself and figure out what appeals to you, what appeals to everyone else, the ones that get selected. Learn from your peers, the more experienced people on the conference committee, is what the audience is looking for. And then you can take that next step of going from the audience to the podium by putting together a compelling abstract and a compelling title that are going to wake up the conference committee and they go, wow, we need somebody to talk about that. And this is the person to do it. And then everything from there, as they say, will be history.
Yeah. So I'm glad none of you took mine, because I didn't know what else I would talk about. But I feel like the one thing that I would say is to get over the fear of getting involved. You need to put yourself out there. And that could be in speaking, it could be in ambassadoring, it's networking, you know. Attend the meetups that we have, attend the community nights that we have here at the conference, get involved, go up and talk to the speakers. Even if you're just an attendee there, the speakers at our conferences are known to be very approachable, and they take the time to listen to you and have discussions with you. The product management teams are here all the time. Get involved in any way you can. It took some pushing from you and a few others to finally get me to run for the board. Greatest decision that I ever made in my life, and I didn't make it the first time, so it was a little bit of persistence that helped as well. But both personally and professionally, being on the board and being involved in this organization has been probably the second best thing that's ever happened in my life, besides my family. So it's a tremendous organization. I encourage you to get involved with it more. So thank you guys for being here, and Natalie. I hope that people enjoyed this. Let's go over to Disney's Hall of Presidents now.
Yeah.